Hey, it's your guy Tyrrell back with the interviews. In today's video, we're going to briefly analyze how Klopp edged the tactical battle over Nagelsmann in Liverpool's 2-0 win over RB Leipzig. When we break down the game and we do look at the board, we have Liverpool in a 4-3-3 and Leipzig starting the game in a 3-5-2. So first, we're going to break down how Nagelsmann looked to disrupt Liverpool from creating chances, and then how Liverpool were able to get themselves into key attacking areas before Leipzig made individual mistakes to concede the game. So when we focus on Leipzig's pressing, their main goal here was to deny Alexander-Arnold and Robertson time and space on the ball. They had Nkunku and Olmo pushing to Kabak and Henderson, and then Angelino and Adams pushing higher up the pitch to close down the Liverpool fullbacks when they received possession. That leaves a 3v3 battle in that midfield zone, with Sabitzer pushing to Thiago, and Haidara should be sticking on Jones, but with Wijnaldum the free man in that midfield zone in a deeper position, Haidara would push higher up the pitch to close him down, and then Kampel would hold his position just in case Jones pushed higher or he looked to receive the ball. You have a 3v3 battle at the back for Leipzig, with Klosterman tight on Salah, Upamecano sticking to Firmino, and Mukiele pushing towards Mane, with Mane causing Mukiele the most problems when Liverpool looked to dump the ball into him. Firmino's role was interesting because he looked to drop deeper into that midfield zone to create an overload, but that's when you would see Kampel stepping into his path to deny him time and space on the ball. We did witness variations of Leipzig's pressing. For instance, there were times where Nkunku and Olmo wouldn't both press the Liverpool center backs. They would simply have one stepping towards the ball carrier, and then the free Leipzig attacking players sitting on Wijnaldum to ensure that Liverpool couldn't exploit a 3v2 advantage in that zone. If we look to an example, here you could see Nkunku stepping into the path of Kabak, with Angelino pushing higher on Alexander-Arnold, Haidara pushing into the path of Wijnaldum, Sabitzer monitoring Thiago's movement, and then Adams shifting narrow just in case the unmarked Curtis Jones received possession in the midfield zone. And then here you could see Kampel pushing into Liverpool's third to close down Firmino, with Haidara shifting into the path of Thiago. But unfortunately for Leipzig here, Henderson and Firmino were able to play a quick 1-2 around Olmo that led to a Henderson switch of play. So as you could see, Leipzig's pressing did disrupt Liverpool from settling into the game, but Klopp found a few alternatives that helped Liverpool create chances simply down the right-hand side by pushing Alexander-Arnold higher up the pitch, and that was largely down to the presence of Kabak at center back. The two main options that Klopp reverted to was by having Wijnaldum drop between the center backs to form a back three, and then have Henderson and Kabak shift into the channels to provide cover for their fullbacks. That's where you ended up seeing Alexander-Arnold have the freedom to push higher up the pitch to peg back Angelino. And if that didn't work, what Klopp simply did was that he had Curtis Jones or Thiago shifting into the touchline area to get away from the pressure of Sabitzer, and that would force Angelino higher. And if it didn't, then it would allow Alexander-Arnold to push higher up the pitch to peg back the wingback and give those midfield players time and space on the ball. Here you could see Wijnaldum splitting the center backs, which pulls Haidara out of position, and Thiago shifting towards the right touchline to pull out Sabitzer, thus enabling Alexander-Arnold to push into Leipzig's half. If we look to another example, it's Wijnaldum once again dropping between the center backs, which pushes Kabak towards the right as Thiago and Sabitzer hold central positions. That's where you see Sabitzer and Haidara dragged into the center of the pitch, and it allows Alexander-Arnold to peg back Angelino while Klosterman sticks tight on Salah. And then we could look to a time where Henderson was on the ball pulling out Nkunku, and you could see Jones shifting to an inside right position away from Olmo pressure as Sabitzer is occupied by Thiago, and that's where you see Alexander-Arnold in an advanced position ahead of Angelino. So as you can see, those simple positional alterations allowed Alexander-Arnold to get himself into positions where he could create, and it also ensured that Klopp could overcome Nagelsmann's high press, because when Alexander-Arnold received the ball a few yards deeper, that allowed Leipzig's wingbacks to push higher up the pitch to ensure that his pressing was successful. Here you could see the results of Firmino and Henderson playing that 1-2 around Olmo that dragged out Kampel, and Henderson instantly looks to pick out Alexander-Arnold pushing into Leipzig's half. When Alexander-Arnold receives Henderson's switch of play, it pulls out Angelino, and he instantly looks to play the ball around Klosterman forced Salah's run off his shoulder, and you could also see Upamecano ball watching. That ultimately results in Salah receiving Alexander-Arnold's ball free on goal in right half space, but from this position he fails to beat the keeper. And following that play, Leipzig failed to clear their lines, and we see Alexander-Arnold step into Haidara's loose touch between Angelino and Sabitzer. What Alexander-Arnold does well here is he brushes off Sabitzer to poke the ball across Angelino and Klosterman, while Firmino makes the run across Klosterman and a ball-watching Upamecano to get himself into legitimate goal-scoring position. Alexander-Arnold's pass plays Firmino in this position where he should pull the ball across goal for an unmarked Mane, but he fires a shot into side netting. Here you could see Thiago dropping to the right of Kabak to pull Sabitzer out of position, while Alexander-Arnold is beyond Angelino along with Salah. Thiago clips the ball into the right channel for Salah as Klosterman tracks the run, and you could see an unmarked Alexander-Arnold ahead of the Leipzig center backs. While Klosterman did well to track Salah's run to deny the Egyptian a chance to break into the box, his byline clearance fell into Alexander-Arnold's feet ahead of Angelino, but luckily for Leipzig, his delivery was nodded away by Upamecano as Mane was breaking freely into the back post behind Mukiele. And if we look to one final example, we could see Wijnaldum splitting the center backs to get on the ball ahead of the Leipzig front two, and he slides the ball to Kabak positioned in an inside right position, while Jones freely shifts towards the right touchline to pull out Angelino. And the reason why Jones is able to do that is because they have a right-sided overload due to the fact that Thiago is being closed down by Sabitzer. Kabak splits Angelino and Sabitzer for Alexander-Arnold, and he instantly flicks the ball across a late-stepping Klosterman for Salah as Upamecano attempts to shift across. Salah ends up laying the ball off to Alexander-Arnold, who pokes a first-time ball between Angelino and Sabitzer, and Upamecano and Campbell for Firmino making a run across a shifting over Mukiele in right half space. As you could see, Firmino receives the ball in a legitimate goal-scoring position ahead of Mukiele, but he opts to control the ball with the outside of his foot, which enables the defender to recover and forces the Brazilian to drag a rush shot wide of the net. The other issue that Leipzig encountered here was Liverpool's pressing. Liverpool were able to get their front three to close down Leipzig's back three, and then they simply had Thiago and Jones pushing the Campbell and Sabitzer, making it a five-man press from the front, and although it does leave Haidara free, Wijnaldum can simply pick him up, and that's where you see the Liverpool fullbacks picking up the Leipzig wingbacks, and even if Wijnaldum didn't pick up Haidara, what would happen was that Olmo would drop deeper in search of possession, and that's where Wijnaldum was able to close him down, and then Henderson or Kabak would be able to pick up the spare man in Haidara. However, Leipzig's main issue was that five-man press from Liverpool from the front, and it was Upamecano in particular who consistently gave the ball away with some sloppy passes that allowed Liverpool to get themselves into good positions. Here you could see the Liverpool press on the Leipzig center backs with Jones and Thiago stepping towards Sabitzer and Campbell as Upamecano prepares to play a pass intended for Angelino towards the left touchline. However, Alexander-Arnold was able to step into that pass played by Upamecano, and he instantly slides the ball into the direction of Salah, making a run in between the Upamecano and Klosterman gap. As you could see, Salah receives the ball beyond Klosterman to break free, with Upamecano shifting across for cover, and he ultimately did well to track back and poke the ball away from Salah to make up for his error. Here, you could see Salah's pressure forcing Klosterman towards his own half, as he was initially dispossessed by the Leipzig left center back, with Firmino beginning to spin away from Upamecano in the right channel. Salah was able to dispossess Klosterman and slide the ball to Firmino, and he begins to make a forward run towards the box, and as you could see, Upamecano is dragged towards the ball while Mane is ahead of Mukiele. Firmino and Salah opt to run a quick two-man combination play across Upamecano because Klosterman failed to recover his position on Salah, and Salah's return pass forced Klosterman to track Firmino's run into right half space, and he instantly stands the ball up towards the back post for Mane peeling off Mukiele. However, from this position, Mane towers over Mukiele to nod Firmino's delivery inches over the net. Here you could see Liverpool's front three pressing Leipzig center backs, with Firmino applying pressure on Upamecano, while blocking off the passing lane into Campbell. Upamecano slides the ball to Olmo, dropping into his own half, but he's swarmed by Wijnaldum, thus resulting in a loose pass intended for Adams to concede possession back to Liverpool. Shortly after that, Campbell attempts to create a 4v3 overload from the back and plays the ball around Firmino for Upamecano, but when Upamecano receives Campbell's pass, he's instantly swarmed by Jones and forced to quickly get the ball out of his feet. But Jones's pressure forced Upamecano to play a loose pass into Thiago, and he instantly directed the ball back into Firmino. That results in Firmino turning and carrying the ball towards the box and sliding it across Campbell and Mukiele to place Mane in a legitimate goal-scoring position, but it was Campbell who blocked his effort in the box. Hi everybody, thanks for watching, and subscribe here for your latest tactical analysis and daily commentary on the InnerViews show. And if that wasn't enough, don't forget you could find more organic, unfiltered soccer/football analysis on the InnerViews podcast, the best soccer/football podcast in the world, available on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, and any Android apps on your Android devices.